From Wall Street to Main Street to help small business owners have the same capital as corporate America and give them the same resources as a larger company. We cover business funding, business credit, scaling, business consulting, and much more. Check out the website at shieldadvisorygroup.com. Welcome to the show, The Liquid Lunch Project.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosa Bianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
Matt, as you know, America has gone service-based. Our entire economy is service-based. So today, I'm going to renew your faith in American tinkering and manufacturing. We have a gentleman here who's actually making stuff. And he's not just making stuff, he's making stuff that we could use. Nick Barrett, welcome to the podcast. And tell the audience, what is the CordBrick?
Well, Matt and Luigi, thank you so much for having me. CordBrick is my invention. It's my first product, flagship invention. It is a little weighted silicone brick that keeps your cord from falling off your nightstand. And it even wraps for travel. So you can trap your cord on the brick, on CordBrick. And then you unwrap it just by popping out that second end, and it just drops your cord unwrapped. When you get to your destination, you can wrap a couple cords with it, but mainly it's a nightstand or desktop weighted cord holder, and it's made of silicone, so it's flexy. And then what's kind of cool about that, I had kind of an accident when I was inventing the product, going through a couple iterations of the prototype. I realized that one of them that I had could actually stand your phone, and I thought, wow, that's a pretty useful additional benefit given that it's for phone cords. Because before I invented this, there was just adhesive cord holders that kind of stick them to the desk, or they're meant more for your computer cord. This one I really designed for the devices that started to get popular 15 17 years ago now, smartphones that people are using even by their bedside.
Nick, there's so much to unwrap here. Walk us through the product development when you started, and then explain to us what you're doing now so we understand all the things that you did wrong and learned.
Yeah, so much to unwrap here. I like how you put that there. Yeah. Honestly, for me, I had never manufactured a product, so I really didn't know where to start. So I just emailed a bunch of silicone rubber manufacturers in the United States, and none of them got back to me. And so I'm like, why? But I realized later that manufacturers, they don't want to mess around, and so what they need things in a certain format. I mean, you realize in any industry, if you've been in business, right, there's certain jargon that is, goes along with that industry and what people do. And so if you don't communicate what you need, right, they know that you don't know what you're talking about. And they, from a manufacturing perspective, I think Elon said it recently, manufacturing is extremely hard. It's much harder than people give it credit for. And, you got to figure out how to make so many different things work together. And there's so many limitations. There's always compromises you have to make when you're manufacturing a product. So that was a huge part of the learning experience for me, was going from zero to trying to make something. And I think for me, bringing no manufacturing experience into developing this product allowed me to make and envision the product in a way that someone who was familiar with manufacturing probably wouldn't have done, because they would have discounted even doing it that way, because it's difficult, leads to a high failure rate. So we had to perfect different tweaks to the mold that we have so that it produces fewer parts that are rejects that we gotta do over. So there's a lot that went into it. It's been a learning process, and then recently just launched the second product here.
So Nick, when you started, did you hire an industrial designer to help you develop it, or did you go to a manufacturer and say, I want to make a thingamajiggy that kind of looks like this and feels like that?
Yeah, I think that second one is really defines how my process was starting out. The first year was complete prototyping, just experimentation for me. I finally found a guy that could actually prototype it, and he was more of an industrial engineer type. And now I have an industrial engineer that I pay to help me with stuff like that.
Very nice. So you started about 4 years ago, you said?
Yeah, 2020 after COVID, kind of realized, okay, this is the opportunity that I've been waiting for. A lot of changes in the market. People were working from home, and I thought, this product is still not out. No one's done it. I had never launched the business before. I'd come from a family that, one side of my family is in government jobs, the other side more corporate life and bigger companies. And so the entrepreneurial path wasn't really one that was well trodden from where I come from. So it was a new thing for me and for everyone involved in my family. And anybody who's ever launched a business before knows, like, the family just ends up getting involved and having support and all that. So it's been quite a fun process to do that.
So I've been down this road before with manufacturing, and we tried to manufacture a product. Didn't work out so well. Product was too big, and it was during COVID. Shipping prices were way too high for the product that we were selling. It tripled our cost on the product. Um, are you manufacturing here in the US or are you doing it overseas?
I tried to start manufacturing in the United States, and I had, although at first none of the manufacturers responded to me, one of the first ones that did was in Tampa, and we bought a mold through them. And I wanted to do a made in the USA product. It was really important for me, and it still is important for me to bring manufacturing back to the United States. And I think we're going to be able to do that here in the coming years a little more than we had been before, due to some automations and stuff that are now going to be possible. Um, but it turned out that the price for so many different things associated with the product, including the packaging, the type of, just the raw materials, packaging and shipping the product. Basically, I couldn't have a business to this point if I didn't choose to go overseas. And so, it was either, do I want the business or don't I? And so I decided that it was worth it to start manufacturing overseas. And to be honest, I've got a great relationship with my Chinese suppliers, and it's been a real pleasure working with them.
So let's talk about that process. Choosing a supplier overseas is not the easiest thing in the world. I've had a lot of frustrations with it. We talked to people. I was taking calls at 3 in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, dealing with people in China, right? You coming from not ever manufacturing anything, and me, the same thing. How did you deal with that process? Why don't you talk to the audience about this, or people that are looking to have something manufactured, and don't even know where to begin? How'd you get started?
Yeah. So, the first thing I would say about that is, like, you just start asking people who might know. It's great. It's really helpful to have a network and to have built up that network throughout your life. I hadn't done a tremendously good job of doing that due to some of my personal choices earlier in my 20s. But I did know enough people to where I was able to get connected with someone who had manufactured something in China before. So that was through a family connection. I bought through that person for my first year and a half of business. And then I talked to some other companies who sort of told me that I could make my product for a fraction of the cost that I was making it for. And I realized I needed to go direct to the manufacturer. So what I ended up doing was, my product is made through compression molding. So I was looking for a specific compression molding manufacturer. And luckily, compression molding is not very complex. And in fact, I'll back up even a step before that. Even though I had never launched a product before in a business, one of the reasons I decided to do this product, CordBrick, was because my best guess was, there's no way that this thing can be that expensive to make. There's not a lot of there's no technology in it. It's just silicone. I could almost make one I could make one from modeling clay from Michael's at my own house. So, I knew it wasn't rocket science. I think with some other manufacturing, there's a lot more complexities that may go into it. Compression molding is like squishing Play-Doh. You got a big piece of metal on the top and the bottom, and you put some stuff in the middle and you squeeze it down. And then when you open it up, there's your cookie, just right out of the oven. And so there was some intricacies that went into that, but it wasn't like the process was very complex. So there are a lot of silicone manufacturers who could do it. The challenge for me was just figuring out what it should cost, and then designing that in a way with an industrial engineer that I eventually did find to help me get that cost as low as I really needed to get it to make the business work.
So how long before the idea to the manufacturing to your first sale? Did you do a
Uh,
pre-sale?
So the original idea was in 2015. I didn't actually end up doing anything about it besides a 3D printed hard plastic model until 2020, when COVID hit, and really didn't fully start until kind of later in that year. So it took me almost a full year. So November of 21 was when I got my first actual product in hand. We had already failed with one mold by that point, and so then I realized pretty quickly that this one too was not going to work, and it wasn't good enough. There was a lot of problems with it, so I decided to go back and figure out again how I could re-engineer this thing and do it a little better, make it a little cheaper, And so then we, did round two. And so the current version of my product is actually, I would guess, the fourth mold that we've done with it, with different improvements each time, and then switching manufacturers and getting costs lower. So, my original product was about 5 or 6 times as expensive as my current one is for me to make now.
That's amazing. Yes, getting that baseline point to what it costs to manufacture and then seeing where you can move and optimizing the pricing on it makes a huge difference in the company and the quality of the products too, right? How many units have you guys sold?
We're getting close to about 50,000 units now. We did a little over 30,000 units last year. And so then we did about 6,000 the year before, and a few thousand before that. So we're climbing closer to 50,000 because we've already started really well this year, and with a bunch of trade shows we went to, some promotional orders, given that the product is just a hot new promotional item, which if you know anything about the promotional industry, they're always looking for new products. This thing has great real estate right by your nightstand or on your desk for logos. So and then we've recently entered Lowe's. So Lowe's is going to be putting us in 500 stores, and so that's easily our biggest most recognizable retailer name, and highest quantity number of stores so far. So I think that'll kind of open the door for the rest of this year, and then that second product and getting that in a couple stores too.
That's
So
awesome.
Nick,
Yeah.
you've got a product. You finally deal with the manufacturer. You come up with the style, the design, the colors. How do you start protecting yourself with intellectual property and design?
Yeah, great question. I had filed a provisional patent, knowing right away that I think every entrepreneur kind of right away is afraid someone's going to steal their idea. That's one of the first hesitations that you have, generally speaking, I think. And you have an idea, you want to protect it. So I filed a provisional right away. Turned out that I needed to make some changes because I wasn't ready to file the full application, nor did I have the funds. Because for a utility patent application, I ended up paying $15,000, which is pretty usual. And I think people often pay more. So I knew I needed to protect it. I've got a trademark on CordBrick, our logo, and stuff like that. So I figured our IP was going to be valuable, and I wanted to prevent people from knocking it off. And in fact, 2 days ago, I just spotted my first knockoff that we're sending a cease and desist to on Walmart.com, and they didn't even use my mold. They actually just copied the style almost exactly. So it does infringe on my utility patent. It doesn't infringe on my design patent though, so that's pretty interesting. And it might, but definitely infringes on the utility patent. And so I knew there would be knockoffs. I knew that was like a non-negotiable, and that you just have to build a brand. And so that's what I've been trying to do.
So Nick, when that happens, are you flattered and say, well, imitation is the greatest form of flattery, or are you burning up inside like these thieving sons of bitches?
Um, Good question. I think I had envisioned what I would feel like and thought about it ahead of time, and it wasn't as intense as I was concerned about. I thought I might, feel like, oh no, this is the big problem. I think maybe part of that is the fact that when I looked at it, I thought this thing stinks. It's not nearly as good as mine. I see all the flaws, and then I see the pictures, and I realize, oh, they don't know how to communicate it. So I go and speak at FGCU in the entrepreneurship school there, which is Florida Gulf Coast University, Dunk City. Uh, and when I talk to the students there, I tell them something that someone told me when I took an entrepreneurship class at FAU for my MBA a couple years ago. And he told me, don't be afraid someone's going to steal your idea, because no one sees the vision like you do. It's your idea. You're the one that originally saw the product, the use, the problem, who's the customer and the brand. And so, and if someone else, they can take your product, but they're not going to get it like you do. And that is absolutely what I see when I see these people marketing this product. Someone from China saw the product for some reason. They must have seen me at a trade show or saw that I was selling it, communicating, oh, that's a good idea, but they don't really know how to use the product even, and they're making it. So I predict it will be difficult for them to have success. And so besides that, we're going to, get them kicked off of the US marketplaces for, covering our US patent. I think it's inevitable that there will be knockoffs. And what you've got to do is you've got to create your brand, and you've got to create a quality product experience. And that's in the messaging, that's in the way that you deal with your customers. There's so many other aspects than just the product alone. And to be honest, they don't have a lower price than me either. So they're not really beating me too much on price, which is often the problem with things like
So
this.
Nick, so now you've got a product, you've protected that product. How do you decide how to sell it? I mean, do you go e-commerce? Do you go brick and mortar? Do you go big box shop? There's so many decisions that a manufacturer, retailer needs to make. How did you decide?
Yeah, and you'll have to cut me off because I mean you're walking me down the entrepreneurial journey that I went through, right? Because and these decisions, happen at every 6 months sort of thing, and you're figuring it out, and then you're working on it for 3 6 months at a time, and trying to figure, okay, is this the right way to do it? So what I did was I thought, okay, direct to consumer, I've got to demonstrate this, and I've got to copy I've got to make a digital Nick, because what I had done is I had first went to a flea market local here in Bonita Springs, Florida, started selling it, went from 10 units a day to 50 units a day, and realized, okay, I have a hit here. I mean, every other person that walks by my booth and watches my pitch, which most people were stopping, was saying, have you been on Shark Tank? You need to go on Shark Tank with this. And so many independent people had said that. And I'm like, okay, this isn't a coincidence. Like once you hear that enough times, you got a hit. And then I thought, okay, I just need to do that online. So we went to do that online, and Apple had just made their update in 21, and COVID caused a lot of prices to really skyrocket for online advertising. And I hired an agency, and guess what? We tanked. It was complete bomb. We made maybe 10 cents back for every dollar we spent on our ads, plus the agency spend. I mean, it was a huge cash suck. So I tried to get a public relations person, and I spent way too much, about 5 times as much I'm spending now on a public relations person. And so you don't really know what you need, and especially not having run a startup before. You just got to try stuff. And I think that's one of the things that people don't really understand about running a startup is you have to test and fail, and you're going to. And so even though you might be making a few bucks off each product, a lot of that money is going to be wasted. And it's just the way it has to be, because there's no like golden ticket. You've got to define your customer for every business, and that's different for every business.
Nick,
So,
the last few minutes, you've mentioned a lot of professionals that you work with. Public relations, attorneys, accountants, industrial designers. Where does an entrepreneur decide I need to now seek professional help versus I'll figure this out myself?
Gut instinct, and it's different for every one of those. I don't really have a great answer for you there. You know, uh, I think I got sober 7 years ago, and one of the things that I've done is tried to practice radical honesty with myself. Is this really something that I know something about? Am I just in denial that I really know what I'm doing here, or do I really need an expert? Or how can I find the real answer to this problem, and what's it going to take to get it solved? And I've overestimated with needing an expert, and then when I should have just kind of done some trial and error myself at a lower cost, and then I've probably done some of that where I should have consulted an expert sooner and paid them to take care of certain things. I've seen people online say you should set yourself an insanely high hourly rate, and then anything you could pay someone to do for less than that, you should just do it, because turns out you're going to need to, go get, your time is worth a lot more. I don't need to be spending time doing graphics, which I do all the time for myself. I need to hire a graphic designer, but there's something for me that if it's not my way, it's not looking right. You can only get someone else to do maybe 75, 80% of the way your vision is going to be. So there's some part of letting go of control that's involved with that too.
so you get the prototype, you get the right model, let's call it. You start selling it. It's online. You're going to flea markets, now you're online. Then you're going to these retail shows and you're selling them to promotion companies. Then somebody like Lowe's comes in and you start having conversations with them. First question is, what is it like to engage a large company like that? Second question is, when you get the yes, how do you plan on funding something?
Yeah, so stepping back, so I had went on Amazon before that, and Amazon was a huge hit for me because we were able to sell for the keyword stocking stuffers. And I think, I try to equate my company to a pop sockets, where before there was these pop sockets that people use to hold their phone, nobody really had any products like that. And then now there's tons of people knocking off or doing similar versions of pop sockets, and people will understand what the purpose and whatnot. When they see it in retail stores, it makes sense. It's got promotional ability as well. So before I got to Lowe's, I kind of had to, I won coolest product at National Retail Federation show at $10,000 earlier that year. I'd went to a bunch of trade shows and seen if in retail it made sense. What I did is I joined RangeMe, which is a digital trade show platform. You can upload your products to there, and big suppliers can do open calls. You can apply for those open calls, and that's what happened with Lowe's. They do a new supplier event to try to identify new hot products and suppliers. And so when I went to them, honestly, I had a ton of confidence because by that point, I had been selling in so many in-person environments, and I knew that the problem was ubiquitous for cords falling, and that people understood the product. I think part of that was due to my branding and packaging. And then when I brought it to Lowe's, I just like I met with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank yesterday. I knew before, I was patting myself on the back before I even went, thinking this is the perfect environment for me. I get to demonstrate something that is extremely demonstratable. I mean, that's the best way to sell this thing. So, I knew that if I showed these people this and got it in their hands, one of the first things I do at a trade show is I hand it to people because they don't expect how heavy it is, and then they like the flexy, squishy feel of the silicone. So, how has it been working with them? I would say it's been tremendous. They're incredible professionals. They know what they're doing, and they know a good product when they see it. And I think that they were able to take action on this product earlier than some of the other companies because they specifically created this event to look for new products and new suppliers, and they trust their gut when they see something they know is a problem.
Yeah, it's also one thing to go out and manufacture a few thousand units, but then when you get into the range of 50,000 to 100,000 at a clip, you're talking about more of a cash layout, right? And this is where a lot of people don't know what to do, right? So, what were your thoughts on that, and what path did you decide to go? Did you raise money? Are you looking for inventory PO purchase order financing? What route are you thinking about?
Yeah, it's a great questions, and financing is the number one challenge I would say for most startups, as you guys know, I'm sure. And it's been a struggle to get as much money as I think I need to do the things I think I need to do to make this successful. And you only feel comfortable going so far into the hole. So how I got money was first I asked friends and family, and I begged them, and I said, "Hey, I got an idea, I got a product. $1,000, $5,000. I'll give you 5 to 6, times your return on that later on if this thing starts to pay off." And so I've been paying those people back
And they
slowly.
got a free
Um,
CordBrick, right?
and they got free cord bricks, absolutely
It's
free
worth
cord
it.
bricks for life, absolutely. And so some of those people kind of gave me some early confidence, and then what started to happen was I started to, with that money, I started to do jump hurdles, and I started to check boxes for different people. And so one of the investors who invested in me right away, but you saw that this was working, and I was, meeting goals, and things were happening, and the product started to develop and improve, and we added features, and then our price kind of came, and we sort of said, just looking at the numbers, is this going to work? Do we really think this is going to work? And we had gotten so much good feedback by that point that one person decided to invest $100,000 into my business for essentially a handshake agreement where I get to still own 100% of the company, and if we make it, I give that person a nice kickback. Not quite what I was saying before with the first investors, but a nice return for them. And then another year went by, and so that was first $100,000, and then so last year we decided to take out a loan where my business, will now pay back that loan. And so we dug even more into the hole with that next $100,000, but I needed a co-signer on that because I don't have any assets. I put all my cash and assets that I had into my business to get it started, in addition to those other investors. So, we're all kind of taking a flyer. And I did actually end up going and I'm connected with the Tamiami Angel Fund down here in Naples, Florida. They allowed me to do a pitch that with inviting some of their investors, and these are just gentlemen from the area who are retired businessmen and enjoy funding companies and just the whole aspect of that, investing in young entrepreneurs locally. And actually through I had an offer to give up to 15% of my company for a little over $100,000 from these folks, and I turned that down. But the same person who had invested in me before said, okay, I see other people are willing to invest in this. Now I'm willing to go a little bit more in with you because I do see that other people want to put up their personal money for this. And we're starting to get to the stage where we could attract some venture capital, which I didn't know anything about investing. this is separate from crowdfunding, but people need to be accredited investors. I had no idea what this was, right? And it's funny, if you look at how many accredited investors there are in America, I mean, it's only a couple million. Um, so it really shrinks the pool of total people you can get personal money from quite small, and then so that makes it more competition for those folks capital. And then we're starting to get in discussions with banks about opening lines of credit for, as you mentioned, those purchase orders that are coming in. So yeah, kind of all the above now is becoming an option.
Yeah, so we do that all day long. I don't know if you know that. We have a funding company, me and Luigi, and we actually do angel investing as well. Yeah, you're kind of, and I don't know if you know this or not, but I spent over 17 years on Wall Street. You're kind of in that
Oh,
position where you're looking, you can grow, you're just getting in stores, right? Capital is always going to be expensive because you're so new in the business, right? And it's really still not a proven business model because you're not even around in the 5 year mark. Most of the banks will give you 5 years, right, to stay before you're a startup. Um, the question now becomes, and it's one of these things where you have to make a gut decision: do I want to give up equity, or do I want to pay higher interest rates? And you got to weigh those odds, right? Because giving up equity, that never goes away. So if this thing becomes a 10, 20, 30, $40 million company, that's a lot of money instead of giving away 20 to 30% right now on $100,000 loan. So it becomes 20,000 versus, 8 to 10 million overall.
you've got it. And I think that's the biggest hesitation. It started really hitting me when we did our investor pitch last year, and I thought, wow, $100,000 to give up that much of my company. I've worked too hard for that, and I see too big of an upside to what I plan on doing with this. And I kind of allude to that with our second new product here, DeskBrick, and launching a line of weighted, holders and things like that. So, I think if you're not in my head, you don't understand where this vision will go, and what it could be.
Yeah. So I applaud you, man. It's so now it's not just about making the product, it's making the other moves. How big is the team that you have right now?
Excuse me, I had a quick drink there. So the team that I have is a team of freelancers, essentially. Um, I've got one sales assistant that I would call, not even officially an employee yet. But it's really interesting today how people are working on more of a project basis. I think that's partially since COVID, and these sites like Upwork and Fiverr have really allowed me to
Isn't it
contract.
amazing?
It's really incredible, and it's allowed someone like me to start a business where it would have been so much more expensive. Um, and although I bleed red, I mean I'm a blue blooded American. Um, I gotta say, it's been really disappointing to see some of the work ethic and the entitlement that comes from some American employees that I've dealt with, compared to some of the international folks that I've contracted through Fiverr and Upwork. And it seems like those folks are really willing to go above and beyond in a lot of ways.
Nick, let me let
Um,
me let me take it a step further. Have any of your contractors that you got on Fiverr or Upwork ever called in sick? They said my tummy hurts.
oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever got one of those ever. Not a single one. I just had someone contact me that's a US student, and before the first call, I get a "I'm sick today" message. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So Nick, you refused to be the one hit wonder. How
absolutely.
easy how easy was it to develop the desk brick, and how did that process evolve from your earlier process?
Yeah, so I mean, I've had a lot of ideas, and CordBrick certainly isn't my only business idea, and well before that, plenty of other ideas. So I have no hesitation of ideas, but what I kind of realized pretty early on is it's important to build your brand, because at the end of the day, your products someone can copy this product quite easily. It's a physical product, make measurements and make a mold, and they get it's done. Um, so what I realized is I need a brand, and I need something that people will buy. Not only this, but they'll trust, because this is a good product, and I'm selling them a quality product. And I put a lot of thought into it, and as far as my packaging and the little instructional accordion guide that shows the 8 uses of it and whatnot. Right, I'm trying to give people a little bit more, and I want to give them other things that they know that they can rely on. I think that's part of building a brand. So Desperate wasn't my original second product idea. I had a lot of other, you know similar type ideas. But what I thought was, this is a easy and simple, and people are directly asking me for it, because what I had seen from our some of the reviews for my first product, CordBrick, was some people wanted one that was heavier. I thought, well, I could make a bigger one, but I really should make a different product that does some of the same things, but not all of the same things, because then I'm just cannibalizing for myself too much. And so then I could start to carve out my niche within this category, and then I could kind of expand from there. So even though some of the people, won't buy CordBrick because they'll buy a bigger DeskBrick, I think what's going to happen is the uniqueness of each of the products is going to bring in more customers, total for my brand. And, I'll get loyal fans for both products. So I've got some other, weighted holders, as I mentioned, of different types, and, for phone cases and cups and things like that coming here pretty soon. So I'm going to get away from 100% cords. But that was the idea behind DeskBrick.
So Nick, I'm definitely going out and I'm definitely buying a couple of these. I'm gonna give a couple away. So I kind of really
Sweet.
like, right? So you definitely have us as customers. We're here rooting for you. We also want to be respectful of your time and thank you for being here. But why don't you tell everybody where they can go out and find you on the socials or our website where they can open.
Yeah, guys, and thanks for having me, and great discussion as well. Always great to talk to people who understand the business and industry of fundraising and the challenges that entrepreneurs face. I'm a member of an entrepreneurial networking group, and it's really helpful to talk to other people like that all the time. The best way to find me is just search CordBrick on any of your social media sites. I'm at cordbrick.com. You could find our product. You can find DeskBrick on there too, or deskbrick.com, which forwards to our website. CordBrick. Nick at cordbrick.com is my email. So feel free to reach out to me if you're an entrepreneur or just want to chat.
Nick, thank you so much. Everybody, that's a wrap on the Liquid Lunch Project. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the show, and make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Liquid Lunch Project.